I often argue that our experiences of the spaces that we interact with is determined in part by what the feminist geographer Doreen Massey referred to as power geometries, or geographically uneven power relations that provide some groups with more mobility, agency, and access than others. So this means that space is not only experienced as territories on a map, but that the way we imagine space has effects on the ways we use it and move through it. It also means that our experiences of digital spaces are heavily influenced by intersectional dynamics such as race, gender, ethnicity, and class, which lead to inequalities that have been thrown, I would say, into quite harsh light here in London recently, with a lot of protests and police brutality around the disappearance of a young woman, Sarah Everard, who was just walking home alone at night. But I would also say that the good thing about power geometries is that no hegemony is absolute. So that means that power is always in flux. And we have it in our collective hands to resist, we have the power to resist the dominance of a certain kind of space by transforming space in ways that we want it to exist as, and by taking spaces back, and in particular digital space.
We are kind of in this atomized world where if you're a lawyer or a journalist or an artist and you don't have a technical background or a degree in engineering, somehow your critique is less than. And I really think we need to change that.
I'm a social scientist, and my goal is to connect different fields to understand AI. Paulo Freire has a very interesting concept that you need to know how to name your pain. When we think about social activists or social scientists, it's important to know a little bit about artificial intelligence so we can understand how technology impacts our life. It's a very important thing that a lot of social activists in Brazil are doing.
My name is Rebecca Cato. I'm also an assistant professor at Kent State University, but I'm a sociologist. I come to this, it's a strange journey. This is my first MozFest, and I'm not a data scientist. I come from researching religion and then science and religion and non-religion, atheism and religious indifference and such like. And then I've come to this from looking at science and belief and religion. But as Christy was saying, getting interested in these questions of interpretation and neutrality with data.
Of course, we're feminists. We do everything from a feminist point of view, which for us is about accountability. It's about inclusion. It's about all genders. It's about all people being able to express themselves and access the tools and the rights that they deserve. So we're not coming at this, it's only women's rights, although clearly women have been marginalized historically throughout the world. So we started to look at the discrimination in the algorithms, and that grew into a declaration where we really deal with what we think structurally governments can do, ranging from public procurement to university places, to really sort of change the texture and dynamic of the way that AI is being created, to obviously including more women, more intersectional women, more people of different kinds of abilities and points of view into the AI creation process.
The data stewards themselves, how do they come to their decisions? Do you get a say? Do they make them all on their own, kind of like a benevolent dictator? What happens if we disagree with their decisions? So these are a whole lot of questions that a lot of people in this space are working on and trying to figure out, as well as kind of the most urgent question, which is, how do we make this concept reality? How do we take it out of the theoretical realm and manifest it in the world? And as you may guess from all the questions I just asked, that's going to require a whole lot of different skill sets. We're going to need lawyers, we're going to need technologists and governance experts and designers and community builders.
The revolution is not going to happen from AI ethicists in companies, and the revolution is not going to happen from AI regulators. But as Rasha points out, there's a lot of potential here for collective action. Like 81%, I hadn't heard that statistic, but that's incredible. 81% of people in the United States thinking that data collection should be banned. This isn't like a Republican versus Democrat issue. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity here for unlikely coalitions.
I do agree that all solutions are local. And I don't even know, even being a policymaker coming from that world, policy isn't going to change the conditions of people. Movements are going to change the conditions of people. And, you know, this past year, we had started to really work with the New Georgia Project on like questions of disinformation. And one of the things that Insane Foot, who's the CEO there and a close friend, always said to me throughout the 2020 election, she was like, Matali, you know, women didn't get the right to vote because men decided it was time. It was because of the suffrage movement. And Black women were part of that. So always lean into culture, lean into movement. And when we're speaking in Black and brown places, that also means leaning into film, into television, into other ways of pricking the cultural conversation in a way that's going to resonate.